Call's a split call. It's James Shaw, 5 minutes.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the Weathertight Homes Resolution Services Amendment Bill. I'd just like to start by noting that this is a bill to finish the clean-up of a problem that started half my life ago. With due respect to those who were involved in that at the time. We all know people who have been heavily affected by this. And in my electorate in Wellington Central, there are both individual houses but also apartment buildings where people have lost almost the entire value of their house, where they've had to negotiate with all of the other apartment owners in their houses, in their apartment buildings, to get those fixed. And it is a colossal problem. The PwC report that Paul Foster-Bell referred to earlier mentioned that the cost to New Zealand is about $12.4 billion. I just want to compare that to the cost of the Christchurch rebuild, which is about $40 billion. So an earthquake that levelled our second largest city, the cost to repair that was only 4 times the size of the cost of this problem. And this was an entirely human-made problem. It was made by people in this chamber. It was a government-created problem. So I'm pleased that the government is cleaning up the mess that it created in the late 1980s and early 1990s. I'd like to note that the Greens were not present at the time, and perhaps if we had been, we might have been able to do something about it. This is a problem of market failure and of relying too much on the market to sort out these kinds of things. I want to say that in spite of this failure, it seems to me that we are on the verge of creating another generation of poor housing. That there are 3 basic things that we need to do to create good housing. One is the orientation of the building. Does it face the sun? Does it optimise the sun? 2 is insulation. Is it dry and is it weathertight? And 3 is ventilation. In other words, can air move through the house and stop it from going mouldy? And these are not hard problems to solve, but with the current round of RMA reforms that the government is looking at, it's just going to make it easier for developers to continue to ignore these basic rules. Why? Because it's cheaper and easier for a developer to go onto a site and to create a building that ignores those 3 basic rules of orientation, insulation and ventilation, and pass the cost of those on to the occupiers of that building, whether it's an individual house or an apartment building. And that is something that we are in danger of going through again, despite the fact that we're now nearly 25 years after the original legislation that created this problem, about to introduce another round of legislation that, it seems to me, will do something quite similar. So, Mr. Speaker, the Greens fully support that the victims of this crisis be given the financial support that they need to be able to get themselves out of the situation that they have found themselves in from this entirely human-created problem. The Greens, as my colleague Kevin Haig said earlier, we believe that we haven't gone far enough. We need to look at the whole body of legislation and regulation in relation to the housing sector, and also the role that government has played in the past and can play again in the future. It would be very easy for us to create a new generation of houses which generate more energy than they consume because they've got solar panels on the roof, which are warm and dry and healthy, and which use the scale that government purchasing can provide to drive down costs across the whole sector. So we really believe in an active approach. And we're disappointed that government after government just refuses to step up to the plate. In the meantime, we do fully support this bill and we commend it to the House.